It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The U.S. Department of Defense just released footage from a Reaper drone flying in international waters over the Black Sea off of Ukraine. I'm a former Navy pilot and flew missions that were, on a few occasions, aggressively intercepted by hostile fighters. Notice the painting I keep on my bookshelf over my shoulder, and bonus points to anyone who can identify what kind of Chinese interceptor that is. Anyway, I've got some thoughts, reasonably well informed, but first, here's the footage. So to start with, those Russian planes are Su-27s. They're frontline fighters, and by Russian standards, pretty advanced, which means they're not giving those things to pilots who graduated at the bottom of their class. You're looking at, most likely, some of the best pilots in the Russian military. And they're not that good. More on that in a second. The fuel dumping. You see that cloud? It looks kind of like exhaust coming out the back of the Russian fighter. That's jet fuel being dumped in the path of the American drone. There's nothing really that unusual about dumping fuel. Many planes have the ability to do it. I did it quite a few times when my plane was overweight and I needed to make a quick landing. It's not very green, I know, but these are military planes. We kind of look past that. What is unusual is dumping fuel on another aircraft. That's an act of aggression. No other way to put it. With the rate this fuel is pouring out, if it hits the other plane in the right way, especially if it's sucked into the engine, that could easily be enough to knock it down. Now, it's hard to understand the visual perspective, but the prop on the American drone is at the back. So this shot is from the drone's onboard camera looking backwards under the right wing as the Russian fighter swoops in. And the fact that the camera is moving to track the Russian fighter means that there's a remote operator somewhere on the ground following this intercept in real time. Some drone basics here. The Reaper crew consists of a drone pilot to fly the thing and a sensor operator to run the camera, like we just saw, and to guide weapons when they're used, although everything I've seen and heard indicates that this was purely a reconnaissance flight. Just imagine for a moment being in that drone pilot's or that sensor operator seat watching this as it's happening, knowing that the Russian military just harassed, some might say attacked, a U.S. military aircraft operating legally in international airspace. Suffice it to say, that Reaper crew is not going to have to buy their own beers for a while. I've always found composting to be too inconvenient and too messy to stick with. But then I got a Lomi. Lomi allows me to turn all of my food scraps into dirt with the push of a button. Lomi is a countertop electric composter that turns scraps to dirt in under 4 hours. There's no smell when it runs, and it's really quiet. And thanks to Lomi, I have way less garbage each week. And our family garden is now filled with dirt made from kitchen scraps. Since I got my Lomi, I throw out way less garbage. That means it's not going to landfills and producing methane. Instead, I turn that waste into nutrient-rich dirt that I can feed to my plants. It feels great knowing that I'm composting and creating something useful, soil, instead of adding to landfill waste. I have a basically limitless supply of dirt for my garden. The other week, we had in-laws over for my daughter's birthday party, and the food cleanup was a breeze. If you want to start making a positive environmental impact or just make cleanup after dinner that much easier, Lomi is the answer. Head to lomi.com/boats and use the promo code BOATS to get $50 off your Lomi. That's $50 off when you head to lomi.com/boats and use promo code BOATS at checkout. Food waste is gross. Let Lomi save you the hassle of a cold trip out to the garbage can while filling your garden and doing right by the planet. What does this say about the Russians right now? First of all, no surprise here, the Russian military lies. When this first happened, They denied any involvement in the incident. Later, they said the American drone acted aggressively and collided with the Russian fighter. Now, we see that the Russian Su-27 indeed collided with the Reaper as the result of an aggressive maneuver. What else can we learn? I think the biggest takeaway is that for the Russian military, this is amateur hour. The fact that they first denied what happened, not realizing that the incident would be filmed, embarrassing. And the flying is just bad. The Russian pilot is trying to rejoin on the inside of a turn, belly up in a climb. You just don't do that. And the closure rate here, the speed at which the Russian fighter is approaching, is clearly unmanageable. You can tell by the way the trail of dumped fuel is bending that the Russian pilot is trying to pull up at the last minute. Too late. The Russian plane strikes the prop, which ultimately leads to the controlled crash of the drone into the sea below. And honestly, that Russian pilot is incredibly lucky to have survived this midair. So in case you were wondering, there is zero chance that the Russian pilot actually meant to run into the prop. It's just sloppy flying. Look, intercepts happen all the time. When I was in the Navy, they happened on both sides. Whenever aircraft from one country gets too close for comfort to an adversary's borders, fighters are sent up to intercept and escort. In almost every case, it's done professionally and safely. Not this time. What we are seeing in this video is the opposite of professionalism. My overall conclusion, judging from the initial Russian denial and now with the video evidence in hand, is that the Russians are panicking. These are not the actions of a confident superpower. Which brings me to the U.S. reaction. Thank goodness we are still confident enough in our strength as a nation to respond in a measured way. And thank God we've got a commander-in-chief like Joe Biden, surrounded by professionals like Secretary of Defense Austin, who see this incident for what it is. It is a clear act of provocation, executed with a shocking lack of professionalism, but it's not the end of the world. Of course, true to form, who are some Republicans blaming for this? They're blaming the U.S. military and Joe Biden. Cue Matt Gaetz. You know, sometimes the anti-Biden chorus sounds so much like the Russian propagandists, you have to wonder whose side are they really on.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.